What's up, witches? It's Luna here with a reading of the chart for Virgo season. I've decided to start a new thing here, which will look at the sun's ingress into each new sign, and that sets the tone in the natal chart for that particular month. Pardon me. So, Virgo season, Virgo is a mutable sign. The mutable signs, as you may know, end the seasons. So every season starts with a cardinal sign. That's why that represents starting and initiating and bringing in the new. The fixed sign is the peak of each season, where the traits of that season are kind of locked in and in full view. And then the mutable sign is when those traits, those qualities kind of start to dissipate and change. So mutable signs rule endings as well. So this is the ending of summer for those of us in the northern hemisphere, the ending of winter for those in the southern hemisphere. And I'm only going to look at a few aspects in this chart because most of them are too wide to be considered in a transit chart. Natal chart is a whole different thing, but by transit, when we're looking at how things affect everybody overall, we keep things to a pretty tight orb within 2 degrees to make it have an impact. So the only 3 aspects I'm going to look at in this chart, one of them is this Saturn Uranus square that we have been experiencing for quite some time now. This is an aspect that sets up a lot of frustration. And you see this pink triangle, it shows a T-square, but we've got Venus at 14 degrees and Saturn at 21, far too wide to be considered. 7 degrees, I don't think I would even consider that in a natal chart, at any rate. When you have Saturn, the Lord of Karma, that rules structure and limitation and restriction and tradition and dogma, the old way, hierarchies, bosses. It rules goals and achievement and the way we achieve things, and it wants to be, looking at things over the long term, doesn't like things to change. And then we put it in square to Uranus, which is all about the new, innovating, the breakdown of the old, rebelliousness against the status quo, non-traditional, weird, eccentric, all that kind of stuff. And you put these two in square to each other, and it really does create a hell of a lot of tension. Saturn can bring in feelings of guilt and depression and inadequacy, and Uranus is, and then what happens in square to Uranus is we just rebel. We want to rebel against anything that is restricting us, anything that makes us feel less than, anything that makes us feel restricted or hemmed in or judged, in that way. So it sets up but then again, when you look at it the other way, Saturn squaring Uranus wants to disrupt the status quo. It wants to, everything old must go. Let's get new stuff in. Let's update it all. Let's be innovative and inventive and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got Saturn going, no, restriction, and delay. Saturn rules delay. So you can see how this could set up a great deal of frustration and restlessness, and you will certainly hear me talking about this extensively in the new moon chart, which you will be seeing in the next couple of days. So we've got that to deal with. Uranus is the stronger planet here because it is actually ruling Saturn, because Saturn sits in Aquarius, the sign of Uranus's rulership. So Uranus is kind of lording it over Saturn here, and it really brings this strong energy of, I want to blow up that old, whatever makes me feel guilty and restricted, I just want to blow it out of the water. But it's frustrating. There's no doubt about it. So the next one I want to look at is the moon down here in Cancer, squaring Chiron. And I will mention that the sun went into Virgo yesterday on August 22nd at 11:15-ish p.m. in the Eastern time zone. So we are already into Virgo season, but this would kind of characterize the nature of this coming month and what we can do with this, with these energies. Moon, of course, is about how we react to life, how we take it in, how we experience things, how we process that emotionally. And Chiron is the nature of our woundedness. Chiron in Aries talks about our woundedness that comes from constantly feeling like we're battling something. Woundedness that comes when we stand up for ourselves and we choose to fight for ourselves. And so this can set up emotional backlash when we stand up and fight. And Moon being in Cancer, of course, makes us particularly squishy and receptive when it comes to what's coming at us from life. So over this month, this would be a time where it really is a good thing. You know, it might be kind of shoved in our faces, to become very conscious of how we do process our emotions when we are put in a position to fight. When we're feeling traumatized, when we are feeling like somebody's coming at us, and how do we work with that emotionally. This is a cardinal aspect, with Aries and Cancer both being cardinal signs. So it's like, you know, how do we begin again? How do we begin to process these very real emotions when we're feeling like I've got to fight my way forward here? The third aspect I want to look at, and this is really standing out to me, is we have an exact Mercury Neptune opposition. It's actually a little bit wide. It's 3 degrees, but I'm going to look at it. So Mercury sits in Virgo, and that makes us hypercritical and analytical. It really gives us the ability to pick things apart mentally into components and look at things with a very critical eye. And that critical eye is all about process. Is this working for me mentally? Is it working for me logistically? Mercury rules logistics. So we want to be very critical about how we logistically go through life, how we're thinking about things, how we want to kind of update our processes. But opposed by Neptune, it really makes us prone to fantasy. It makes us prone to idealism, to kind of woolly-headedness. So that crystal clarity and critical thinking of Mercury and Virgo really goes into the realm of woolly-headedness, and I'm not really thinking clearly here. My thinking is prone to fantasy, and my what am I trying to come up with here? To my imagination, prone to imagination. So this says that we can have a lot of worries that are generated on not a factual basis. All right, Mercury and Virgo can make us chew over things to the point of worry. So with Neptune opposing, we need to be very aware of where we are making things up, or just where we don't have factual evidence. We can say, you know, oh, I'm just really worried about this, but stop yourself and say, is this actually happening, or am I spinning a yarn here? Am I putting out a fantasy story, and then that is causing me to get really worried? All right. So for this whole month, I would say, let's and like I said, I'm really not looking at any other aspects because they're too wide. Although, hold up, we need to look at the Sun at 0 degrees of Virgo and Mars at 1 Gemini. So this is definitely a square, and it's a tight one. It's a mutable square. So Sun being squared by Mars is we can get very aggressive in our self-expression. Virgo self-expression is all about what I know, and what I know about how things are working, how my life is working. So we can get hypercritical, but it's a great time to really aggressively look at life and go, how is all of this working for me? Is my life set up in a way that I can really express who I am in a way that makes sense, in a way that's efficient, in a way that helps me process things. So remember that this month is all about bringing the summer season or the winter season, depending on where you are, bringing this season to a close. For those that are ending summer, it's about what we are bringing in for the harvest. Is it going to nourish us? What did we learn over the summer? All right. So we can look at our lessons, but we also want to make sure that we're looking at them with a critical eye and not creating a bunch of, fantasies about them. I was going to say something else real quick there, and I don't remember what it was. But, that we can, whatever thoughts we're having about these things, however we're processing all of this mentally, it can be really easy to creatively write about it. So journaling would be a great thing. We can tap into that Neptune energy and write some poetry about the stuff that we're processing through. We can write down our dreams and see what they're telling us. So that, Mercury Neptune opposition can be information that comes in through dreams. So this is how you make use of that Neptune before it makes use of you and just kind of dissipates any sort of mental order that you're trying to establish. Okay, and so as we end this month, let's look at the Virgo drive to process and look at how we can handle the frustration of the Saturn Uranus square, how we can bring in the new and maybe discard the old and outworn. Saturn can really represent here the old and outworn and the things that need to go. So Uranus squaring that says, let's really get ready to throw some shit out. And the Mercury in Virgo can let us think about things in a very critical way, and look at what we want to make disappear. Neptune rules things that disappear. So if thought-wise, what do we really need to be done with and end and move it through? And then that Moon Chiron square just says, how do I really work at processing my emotions through around my woundedness? And the Mars Sun square says that we can really be aggressive about expressing these Virgo energies. Out with the old, in with the new. Have a critical eye towards what your thinking processes are doing. Are you making up things that are then making you worry? Okay, but let's look at how we can process summer and wrap up the season and give it some meaning. Mercury in Virgo says, what does it all mean to me? What's the whole point of it? So we can really look at what the summer has meant to us and look at ending things well, so that when Libra season comes up and kicks off the autumn or the spring, we can start fresh. I do want to look down at the elements and modes. I didn't do that. We have strong earth in this chart. So of course Virgo's an earth sign. So this whole last month is about dealing with the material, with our material things, with the, the harvest. If you have a garden, what are you bringing in from that garden? How do you want to store it? How do you want to deal with it on a practical basis? And that is far outstanding of all of the elements. The modes, we have equal, cardinal, and mutable, so we do not have a chart signature here. Fixed is close behind, so we have pretty equal access to all of our modes of behavior as far as getting things started. The emphasis is on starting something new, finishing up the old. Fixed just allows us to see it through. All right, I hope you got something from that. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that already. I will see you next time. Until then, this is Luna. Blessed be.